Returning to Pomona for the first event of '91, Amato calmly viewed the challenge of attaining an unprecedented fourth title. But so far, things have not gone Joe's way. At Pomona, he lost traction, losing to a nearly out-of-control Eddie Hill in round two. And the next two events have not treated him more kindly, with a loss to Bernstein at Phoenix. And then this horrific engine explosion at Houston in the first round against Jim Head. To an exhausted Valvoline team, the shattered remnants of that engine might well have symbolized their 1991 effort to date. With 3 events already in the books, the vaunted Amato juggernaut seemed nearly motionless. Today in Gainesville, Florida, the defending series champ looks to his always stoic crew chief, Tim Richards, for the answers that will hopefully help reverse the team's fortunes as the National Hot Rod Association presents Championship Drag Racing on ESPN Speed World. The NHRA, the world's largest motorsport sanctioning body, showcasing speeds in excess of 290 miles per hour and traveling the quarter mile in less than 5 seconds. Championship Drag Racing from the NHRA. Each year witnesses a coast-to-coast confrontation known as the Winston Drag Racing Series. And today, the 4th stop on that 18-race pilgrimage is taking place in North Central Florida. The 22nd annual Gatornationals. It can be said that each race is a new beginning. The lessons from previous outings have been learned and applied to an all-new effort today by Joe Amato and crew. Still suffering from a painful neck and back, Amato qualified number 2 at an outstanding 4.94 seconds elapsed time. Earlier today, he defeated Pat Dakin in round number 1 with another 4 of 4.97. There is an excitement about conquering adversity, rising to the challenge of defending a Winston championship. But the level of emotional involvement can be taxing for everyone. Just before the action got underway today, I asked Jerry Amato about that very thing. Jerry, what is it like for you spending so much time with 2 guys as intense as Tim and Joe?
It's a lot of fun and it's pretty exciting. I kind of stay out of the way and mind my own business, and I know that sooner or later Tim Richards will come up with the winning combination.
But just a few pits away, everyone remembers this yellow dragster. Eddie Hill's old short car that was the first into the 4s back in 1988. Then we thought we saw its demise in 1989 at the Winter-Nationals in Pomona when Eddie did a flip-flop and fly that has never been equal. But here's big news. Old Yeller is back and the star of the Gatornationals. Eddie in this short car, number 1 qualifier at 492. Earlier today, he beat Jim Head with a 496. The fans are going wild. Now, what do you get if you qualify low? Well, you get $4,000 in bonus cash from Budweiser. And in the case of the Hills, a gift from a fan. Ursi Hill, the newest crew member. She's a doll.
Oh, this is a miniature dachshund that some fans gave us, and her name's Hot Dog Hill.
How is she going to get along with Monkey Bat the cat in this trailer on the road for 11 months?
She wants to play, but the jury's still out with a cat. He doesn't know if he wants to relinquish his seniority or not.
Good luck next round.
Thank you.
Well, the pits are full of wildlife, dachshunds, Siamese cats, and warming up on another area of the pits is the one they call the Snake. Don Prudhomme making his preparations for round number 2 of Top Fuel. Working with me today is Big Daddy Don Garlick's 3-time NHRA Top Fuel champion. Your usual host, Dave McClellan, is recuperating from heart surgery, recuperating very nicely, and should rejoin us in a race or 2. Don, welcome.
Thank you very much, Steve. Let's pick up the action. It's Pro Stock, round 2.
And it'll be a pair of General Motors products, Bruce Allen versus Jerry Ekman. And we can easily tell you that they are both winless so far in this season because one man has won all 3 previous races. Darrell Alderman in the Dodge. We'll be seeing him later on here in round number 2.
2 yellow cars, very hard to tell the difference, but Ekman is in the far lane, Bruce Allen in the near lane.
Jerry Ekman wheeling that Pennzoil Pontiac from Ventura, California. You'll recall last year he came down to the final event of the year, still had a shot at the Winston Championship. Bruce Allen, Arlington, Texas, the Rear and Morrison Super Shop Chevrolet Beretta. Hard to say which of these cars has the better aerodynamics. They certainly look different visually, but the wind tunnel says they're about the same.
2 very evenly matched cars, Steve. Should be a real good race.
2,350 pounds, racing gasoline in the tank, 2 huge 4-barrel carburetors, 500 cubic inch maximum size engines. A beautiful start. by both drivers. Identical reaction times. It is a race of horsepower. And the nod goes to Jerry Ekman. A 734 to a losing, if you can call it that. 735. Both cars topping 187 miles per hour. Don Garlitz, this was about as perfect a pro stock side-by-side duel as you could ask for to kick things off today at the Gators.
Unbelievable race. Perfect reaction time, meaning that they got off right together. Couldn't have started the race any closer. Down course, they were tied together. Two yellow cars side by side. Anybody could have been the winner. Just barely at the end, by just a nod, Jerry Ekman beats Bruce Allen.
Jerry Ekman scrambles out of his Pontiac wondering who won. The NHRA Motorcraft Gatornationals are being brought to you by Goodyear, maker of the world's most successful tires, the Goodyear Eagles. And by Quaker State. The Big Q is one tough motor oil. And by Ford Motorcraft. Choose the replacement parts that provide more peace of mind. Motorcraft quality parts from Ford. We'll be back to Gainesville. Gainesville, Florida for the Motorcraft Quality Parts Gatornationals. I'm Steve Evans along with Big Daddy Don Garlitz, and that, of course, is Tim Richards putting final preparations on Joe Amato's top fuel dragster for round number 2 to come. In the new tower extension here at Gainesville Raceway, anticipation high, even though this is the second weekend we have been in this part of Florida. Last week's finals being rained out and moved ahead 7 days. All right, pro stock continues, and it will be Darrell Alderman. You're on board with a man who has been undefeated this season, and he will be up against Ricky Smith. Ricky's a guy who, if he can't beat you with horsepower, he will try to do it with driving every single time. Ricky hails from King, North Carolina. In round number 1, he defeated Larry Morgan's usually strong Castrol GTX Oldsmobile. Darrell Alderman is from Lexington, Kentucky, where recently he was indicted for conspiracy to distribute cocaine. He has pleaded not guilty. NHRA says not guilty until proven otherwise. He retains his competition license, his points, and his right to drag race professionally. Darrell Alderman, the winner of 3 consecutive events this year on the Winston season in the Dodge, sponsored by Mopar Parts.
Well, there's some people with some of the best seats in the house, Steve. The brand new tower that they just constructed here at Gainesville really made the place look nice.
And weather-wise, what a difference a week can make. It is absolutely beautiful as Darrell Alderman stages a Dodge against the STP Pontiac of Ricky Smith. We'll watch the reaction timers very closely here. That may be Ricky's only hope. Alderman qualified much quicker. It is Smith away first, but not by much. Alderman moving through the gears. Alderman has got Smith by a clean car length. 732 to a losing 740. Alderman speed 188 miles per hour. So pro stock round number 2 thunders on, and here is the famous Ford Probe to be exact, of Bob Glidden, sponsored by the event sponsor Motorcraft.
He'll be facing Butch Leal in the far lane. Now, in my opinion, Leal is one of the better levers in pro stock. He will take an advantage on the starting line.
Oh, I heartily agree with that. And Butch Leal keeps his reflexes sharp, playing lots and lots of golf. From Columbus, Ohio, he might someday even try out for the Seniors Tour. But right now, he's too busy drag racing. A man who's always been busy drag racing all of his adult life is Bob Glidden, the 10-time champion, who last year came up a little bit short and finished number 2 in the world. Leal in the light-colored car over in the far lane. The bright red Motorcraft Ford Probe of Bob Glidden in the near lane. As Big Daddy said, look for Leal to try to get an advantage, and Leal does. Glidden is going to need a good run to overcome what he lost in the starting line. And he's got it. 731, again, 188 miles per hour. 3 pro stock cars in a row running exactly the same top speed. So Glidden moves on to the final 4. And up next is a guy who's had a lot of good luck and a little bit of bad. Warren Johnson in the Oldsmobile. Johnson has been in the finals at the Winter Nationals and at the Arizona Nationals. His other car, driven by Scott Jeffrey, on in the finals at the Super Nationals, and still they can't come up with a win. And Joe Lapone Jr. hopes to keep it that way here in the Summit Chevrolet Beretta. Joe Lapone had a tough customer in round number 1, but he disposed of him, Jim Yates. Lapone out of Berwyn, Pennsylvania.
Warren Johnson driving the AC Delco Oldsmobile from Duluth, Georgia. He beat Tony Christian earlier. He was a tough character. Let's go to Steve now at the far end with Bob Glidden.
Well, Bob, you look like a man that could use some encouraging words, so I have some for you. You just ran quicker than the Dodge. That gives you lane choice over the Dodge in the next round.
Well, that doesn't mean a lot nowadays with that Dodge, Steve, but you know, sure feels good to win a couple rounds.
7:31.
We've been almost a third of the season trying to win a couple of rounds, and we feel pretty good right now.
His fortune's definitely improving.
Well, now we know who one half of the Final Four is. It'll be Glidden versus Alderman, and the winner of this race will be who faces Jerry Ekman.
And to refresh your memory, in the far lane, it is Joe Lapone Jr. On the left side of your screen, near side on the racetrack, is Warren Johnson. Lapone tardy off the mark. You can't do that racing somebody with the power of Johnson, and there's why. A clean victory for Warren. 7:29. Big speed. Best we've seen today from the Pro Stock breed. 189 miles per hour. Lapone trails at 7:38. 187 miles per hour. So there you have it. It'll be Bob Glidden up against Darrell Alderman. The fans will be on their feet for that one. The Ford of Glidden has the lane choice. Warren Johnson versus Jerry Ekman. Oldsmobile against Pontiac, and Johnson has the lane choice by quite a margin. And already rolling into the staging lanes, Eddie the Thrill Hill, Wichita Falls, Texas, the #1 qualifier. He'll be up against Don the Snake Prudhomme, and judging by that smile, he feels awfully confident. It is up, up, and away for the hot air balloon enthusiast here at the Motorcraft Quality Parts Gatornationals. But back in the Pro Stock pits, well, it's nothing but hard work. It used to be, Don Garlitz, all you had to do was cool them off and adjust the valves. Now with these tricky clutches, it's almost the maintenance time it takes on a supercharged dragster funny car.
And Steve, Ekman has got his work cut out for him. A 7:34 does not beat the 7:29 that Johnson turned. He has got to find something from performance.
And they're looking for it in chassis and clutch, and possibly even making sure that the spoiler on the rear of the car is at its absolute maximum angle of attack per the NHRA rules. And here, already fired up for round number 2 of Top Fuel, Laurie Johns versus that man, the 1989 Winston Top Fuel champion, Gary Ormsby. And these are a pair of drivers, both Laurie and Gary Ormsby, Don Garlitz, who have new cars under construction, feel they have maybe an inferior ride right now, but haven't got the new ones done yet.
Well, neither of these cars have had a really outstanding performance in the earlier rounds, so I would imagine that both crew chiefs have been working very hard trying to get them tuned up.
Now, Laurie Johns, Corpus Christi, Texas, the Jolly Rancher machine. She defeated Corey McClanath in round 1 with a nice hole shot. She was happy about that. Gary Ormsby, Roseville, California, the Castrol GTX Top Fuel dragster. He defeated Tom McEwen and Jack Clark's Mobile 1 Special in round number 1. So it's Laurie Johns near lane up against Gary Ormsby. These cars make, I think, 5,000 horsepower now is conservative, Don.
Probably so, and that's hard to believe out of an engine that originally produced only 425 horsepower.
If that. All right, there's Ormsby. The wings high in the air to provide the downforce it takes to glue these machines to the Gainesville Raceway quarter mile.
Both cars, excellent levers.
That's right. It is Ormsby by a wheel. Oh, Laurie won't like these numbers. Ormsby runs a 5:11. She runs a quicker 5:10. He had the advantage off the mark, 283 miles per hour. Let's see if we can see it. Does Ormsby move first?
He certainly does, Steve. He took a decided starting line advantage, and if it hadn't have been for that, we'd have had a different winner because Laurie Johns actually produced more power in the middle of the racetrack. Now, down at the top end, the high-speed tuning of Lee Beard, the crew chief for Gary Ormsby, paid off with a remarkable 283 miles an hour, and that's just what it took to hold him off.
Well, Laurie Johns won in a hole shot in round number 1, and Gary, you beat her with a hole shot here in round number 2. Your 5:11 to her 5:10.
Well, I didn't never see her, but I could hear the motor her over there. I knew that she was right with me, you know.
Now, that's all good news. Bad news is those numbers aren't what you want. You've got to get in the 4s to win this race.
Oh, there's no question about it, Steve. We've been struggling all weekend, you know, and I don't know what we're going to do. I'm sure Lee will figure something out for the next round.
Well, you're certainly not burning it up.
No, that's for sure.
Well, crew chief Lee Beard may be going to burn it up because competitors like Bernstein, Amato, and Hill, they're all in the mid-490s, and 5'10", 5'11" doesn't beat that.
No, it doesn't. You're on board, kind of, with Joe Amato as our camera takes a look back at the cockpit. You saw his wife, Jerry, moving around to the front of the car to guide him back after the burnout. A sun-drenched crowd rising to their feet because the car owned by their man will be up against Joe Amato. And that, of course, will be Frank Hawley driving for Darrell Gwynn, that car in the opposite lane. And Darrell has always considered Gainesville Raceway to be his home racetrack. Well, to Joe Amato, they're all his home racetrack. Tim Richards going to work on what, Don?
He's working on that little timer right there in back. Maybe it is they can change some of those management systems right at the last moment.
I'd hate to be Frank Hawley today. A lot of self-imposed pressure. Darrell Gwynn won this race a year ago, his last victory before his tragic accident in England. Hawley, of course, the operator of the drag racing school right here in Gainesville. Joe Amato, well, he says Joe knows drag racing. And the man from Old Forge, Pennsylvania, certainly proved that last year, winning his third Winston Championship. Tying you, Big Daddy, and Shirley Downey.
I'm sure he'll win a lot more, too. Probably beat us quite a bit. He's a young man.
Yes, he is. Joe Amato versus Frank Hawley. You're right with Amato. You can see no smoke off those tires, but a little off of Hawley's mid-course. Tim Richardson, yes, we'll take that one, even though the car slowed up a bit. 5:06 for the winner, Amato, 275. 5:10 for Hawley at 278. And the laundry, as drag racers refer to their parachute, being stuffed into the pack of John Force's AA fuel funny car. We'll see him soon against Tom Hoover.
Welcome back to the Motorcraft Gatornationals at Gainesville, Florida. A lot of Eastern fans here. First race for the season for them. Let's go to Steve at the far end.
Well, Joe Amato is intentionally using every bit of stopping distance here to try to avoid any further pain in the neck, decelerating.
Well, the track is real long at Gainesville here, so I hit the brake handle one time before I hit the chute handle, let the car decelerate a little bit, and it definitely helps a lot.
A 5:06. Did Tim soften it up, worried about the racetrack?
Well, he kept it, you know, it's so hot, yeah. You know, but you don't want to beat yourself, so we hopefully got the win light, and that's what counts.
Thanks a lot.
Next race, very strong race. Prudhomme in the far lane, Hill in the near lane. Now, Eddie Hill comes into this round with a definite performance advantage. It looks like he's a shoe-in winner.
He was low elapsed time in round number 1 with that 496. Look at the difference in the cars. A little short yellow car and the long state-of-the-art Al Swindle car for Don Prudhomme. Now, Prudhomme, so far anyway, has had a pretty encouraging season. He went winless last year, his first year back in Top Fuel. But earlier this year at the season opener, the Chief Auto Parts Winter Nationals, he was runner-up with an outstanding 4.93, a career best. Eddie Hill, Wichita Falls, Texas, between feeding the dog and the cat and nitro to that motor, he stays a very, very busy guy. The Super Shop-sponsored automobile.
It'll be very interesting to see what the Prudhomme crew did to his car to try to make up this difference.
Well, they certainly know, just based on the numbers they ran in round 1 and the numbers that Eddie Hill ran, that they had to do something. Oh, Hill was late. Prudhomme in a runaway. What a shocker. The low qualifier is out. The Snake goes to the Final Four at 5:07. 274 miles per hour. Hill, 5:21.
Something definitely went wrong with Hill. Either he lost his concentration or he had some little problem in the car, because he was just off so bad at the starting line. It certainly wasn't just a misjudgment. I think he must have been something in the car that caught his attention. I saw a little wisp of smoke on the tire. Something in the clutch management wasn't right. And then he must have backpedaled it and popped the blower.
Well, there is Kenny Bernstein getting ready. Dale Armstrong looks pretty concerned now. Suddenly the Snake is a big-time player with that 5:07.
Well, what a disappointment for Eddie Hill. Such a brilliant performance at this race. Let's go down to Steve.
Well, Eddie, a delightful race has come to an end, unfortunately. A blower problem?
Yeah, kicked the blower off real early. Don't really know why. That was totally unexpected, obviously.
Will you stay with this old car or try the 3 adventure in the future now?
I love this car. We're going to stay with this one.
Kind of like a good old leather jacket. You feel comfortable in it?
Feel real comfortable in the car, and it's never let us down.
That's for sure. The low qualifier at 492. Adios.
We keep trying to get that car for the museum, but he keeps wanting to race it.
That's right, not far from the racetrack. Here is Don Garlick Museum of Drag Racing. There we can see where the blower restraint straps are busted off. They kept the blower on top of the engine. Well, actually, it hovered about an inch above the engine. There is Kenny Bernstein. He has the hot hand in Top Fuel so far this year. He has won the last 2 races, the Arizona Nationals and the Super Nationals in Houston. He's up against Frank Bradley. Bradley won the opening race of the year in an upset in the final round of the Internationals over Don Prudhomme. Frank Bradley from Northern California, the wine country. Kenny Bernstein, well, he's got a place in Dallas, Texas, a place in Charlotte, a place in Newport Beach, California. Depends on which racing team he's paying attention to that week as to where he lives. Bernstein's reaction times, Don Garlits, have been the top of drag racing.
Yes, sir. They have looked his car over from one end to the other, trying to find some tricks on the throttle. And you can bet that Frank Bradley is concerned about that right now. He has got to get by this Bernstein, and it's going to be a tough cookie.
Absolutely. It has been, you have to run 5 or 6 hundredths better than Bernstein to beat him with that reaction time. It's part car, and it's part driver. Dale Armstrong has got something in that automobile, be it fuel system, clutch, that's helping Kenny Bernstein carve those incredible reaction times. And it is Kenny Bernstein with another impossibly quick reaction time and a good lapse time at 5:06, 284 miles per hour. He will head into the final 4. So, it is Prudhomme against Gary Ormsby. Prudhomme has the lane choice. Liebert has to step up that Ormsby car if he's going to get past the snake. Kenny Bernstein versus Joe Amato. Bernstein has lane choice in that one.
Meanwhile, back in Bob Glidden's pit, Rusty and Billy maintenance the clutch. They do as much work on these cars between rounds as the fuel cars. Bob, he's working over there on the clutch grinder, getting the disc squared away, getting them real nice and flat. Meanwhile, let's go down to Steve at the far end.
Well, apparently, Tim Richards for Joe Amato and Dale Armstrong for Kenny Bernstein are taking the same approach to this race today, as both in this round, Kenny, have run 5:06.
Well, that's good. That's what you want to do. It got a lot hotter in between the first and second round, and so now it's everybody's race to just put the best in and hope it doesn't smoke the tires.
Now, if you take the elapsed times to the 1,000th, you have lane choice.
Well, that's good. You never know what's going to happen up there. I think both lanes are good right now. I don't think it matters, but, you know, if somebody was to oil something in front of you, at least you've got a choice to move over.
You also had another terrific reaction time of 4:3.
Well, that's fine. Appreciate that, but Joe's been on him too, and everybody else, they're all beating on me. You see my shoes. I got different colored shoes on. I'm trying everything today, Steve.
As Amato often does with all of his lucky items he carries.
Looks to me like a lead foot if I ever saw one.
To the fans, one of the biggest appeals of NHRA Championship drag racing is the pits are open. They can go anywhere they want, get autographs, pictures, be close to the action and the superstars. Well, speaking of superstars, it's time for the semifinals, the final 4 of Nitro Funny Cars, and that is Tom Hoover, the Scotch color car from Minnesota, Pontiac-bodied machine. As we've explained many times before, but it bears repeating, as we look at John Force's Castrol GTX Oldsmobile, Big Daddy Don Garlits, the same basic motors as the dragsters.
Yes, it is. They're just a little bit difference on the tuning because the cars do react differently as they leave the starting line, but they both produce upwards toward 5,000 horsepower.
So far, Force has had a very lucky afternoon. In round number 1, his competition, Frank Kramberger, was unable to show in the staging lanes. In round 2, he got by Dill Worsham with a very slow 544. Tom Hoover, on the other hand, has had to race every opponent every round and has really scratched and clawed himself into this position. John Force, of course, wears the number 1. He is the Winston champ from the 1990 season, a dream finally realized.
Well, you know, the Winston champ has always got a strike against him. Everybody takes their best shot against you every round.
That's right. In this sport, they hate repeaters.
Yes, they do.
We're on board with John Force. The body comes up no problem. Austin Coyle likes to do the burnout on one magneto and then put the other one into the system after the tire smoker has been completed.
Did you catch those couple of little hand signals between Force and Coyle when the body was up?
What do you think they meant?
Well, they were, I don't know, but evidently it looked to me like Force was saying everything's okay in here.
Well, it's a little like the manager in baseball signaling to the base runner, whether it's a hit and run or a run and hit or whatever. So Austin finally backs away.
Well, that was the last hand signal you'll see out of the coil. It's up to John Force now. The drivers have complete control of these cars at this point.
Absolutely. Crew chief for Tom Hoover is 86-year-old father. And Force loses traction. John Force in the body blows off of Hoover's car. He has got his hands full.
Yes, he did. He backpedaled that car, and it must have hydraulic, blew the blower off, and he did have his hands full. But when the body comes off, Steve, that's actually the best. That means no fire can be trapped in there with the driver.
Well, right now, the competition has to be saying, what does it take to beat John Force? He goes up in smoke. He appears to be history, and suddenly Hoover launches a body into orbit.
As we watch this replay, it looks like Force is a sure loser, but some smoke starts to come out of Hoover's car, and then the body explodes. He must have dropped an intake valve, and it allowed Force to get by and take the win. What an unfortunate situation for Tom Hoover, but luckily he didn't get hurt. Here we see it from a different angle. What a fantastic job of driving he did as that body ripped up. You can imagine what he's got his hands full trying to steer the car with still a little flame right there as the car crosses the finish line. We watch the crew remove the body from the track, totally destroyed. This is a very expensive situation for Tom Hoover. Steve is with him now.
Tom Hoover, obviously okay getting into the tow vehicle. Spectacular and expensive.
It really was. I blame it because I should have had a baffled tank, and when I got back on it, before my brain said I was in trouble, there was no fuel there. It went lean and bang. I seen John smoke a tire. We both backpedaled, and when I went back after it, the fuel evidently had a lean spot and ran away from the pumps and got me in trouble.
Sometimes it's better to have a body come off cleanly like that.
Oh, yes. We've all had them hang around and tear the car up real bad. This one went for a ride, and I knew what happened. Luckily, we were okay.
Thanks, Tom.
You heard Tom mention a baffled tank. That's a sheet of aluminum that's welded through the center of the tank that prevents the fuel from sloshing forward or backwards, and which would cause a lean out when you backpedal the car. He didn't have that. I bet he will the next race. Our next pair of funnies will be Mike Dunn in the near lane and Mark Oswald in the far lane. Meanwhile, back to Steve.
John, what did you see through your windshield? It had to be incredible.
Steve, that was spectacular. I mean, I never been that close up in one, and I never seen nothing from the outside. She was smoking the tires. My old man said, don't ever give up, ever, and I was chasing him. I thought, God, I'm going to throw the rods out. Coil's going to kill me, and I'm smoking the tires in the lights, and all of a sudden I seen that body just go, gone. It's over for him and in for us, thank God.
Well, John Force just violated every rule of fuel racing, but he won, so all is forgiven.
And did some pretty forceful driving himself. Next up, two teams with dramatically different approaches to trying to win the 1991 Winston Funny Car Championship. In the near lane is that beautiful Pontiac-bodied automobile. That is Mike Dunn out of Mount Joy, Pennsylvania, a team owned by a Pennsylvania businessman. They've got all the latest equipment. They have a good shot at it. Mark Oswald, Cincinnati, Ohio, will be driving two different cars. The driver keeps the point, so you can do that. They will both look just like that In-N-Out Burger car. This one belongs to Jeff and Susan Bernstein. It will campaign in the East. The car on the West belongs to Bill Schultz and the Over the Hill gang. Oh, boy. This looks like pro stock racing. It is Mark Oswald. Oh, and a huge problem, Don Garlitz.
Something has went wrong. Look at the body kicked up on the backside, oil coming out of the engine. That crew is going to have a tremendous amount of work to do.
From another angle, take a look at the car in the left-hand lane. Right there. It blows a left rear tire. Probably ran over a piece of debris, something on the racetrack. Completely shreds that huge left rear slick.
These slicks, they turn nearly 2,000 RPM in the light, so there's a lot of force on them. If any little thing happened to be on the track, it could have blown that tire. Look at the pieces coming off, and then the tire rubs the body, creates a tremendous amount of smoke. What a masterful driving job for Mark Oswald to be able to keep that car under control. Steve is with him now.
A tremendous amount of damage, Mark Oswald, to the left rear quarter panel on this automobile. Where did the tire blow?
Right after I shut it off.
What do you think caused it to blow?
I don't know. I was looking at the wheelie bar and things like that. Everything's intact. It was spinning the tires a little bit. No real reason. I guess we'll just have to look.
Do we have a body for it?
No, we don't. This is a brand new car. We just got it done in time for this race. It's a real shame to, you know, I really want to do it for Jeff and Susan this weekend at In-N-Out Burger. You know, they've been so good to us, and I'm real happy over here. It's just a shame something like this had to happen to their brand new car.
People at home might be saying, well, can't you fix it?
No, you couldn't fix the body. The chassis, I'm sure, is just fine.
Is this a carbon fiber body or fiberglass?
Yes, it is a carbon fiber body.
And the downside there is you just can't fix them on the road. They have to go back to the manufacturer. The good old fiberglass bodies, well, you might have had a shot at it. They may not be giving up quite yet, though. Let's not throw in the towel for them.
They got any pieces? What a tremendous amount of work would have to be done to prepare this car for the next round. We'll just have to wait and see if they can do it.
So the final in Funny Car will pit John Force against Mark Oswald. If Oswald can make the repairs, he will have lane choice if he can make it to the staging lanes. We're back back in Gainesville, Florida for the Motorcraft Gatornationals. I'm Steve Evans along with Big Daddy Don Garlitz. And if you'd like to become more involved in championship drag racing, no better way than joining NHRA. Just $45 a year. You get 48 issues of National Dragster, the jacket patch, the pin, the decal, the rule book, and if you call the number on your screen right now, you'll receive a free copy of the Diamond P Video Drag Racing 1990. So make that call.
Meanwhile, back in Mark Oswald's pit, the In-N-Out Burger crew have decided to try and make the show. Look at the work going on that body. We saw it down at the far end when Steve was interviewing Mark. It didn't look like there was anything left, but they are going to patch that body and try to make the final.
Only one thing makes this possible. They are using Tom Hoover's destroyed body for parts, carving out giant chunks of it. All right, right now it's time for the final four in pro stock. And first up will be the Mopar Dodge, Darrell Alderman. We've told you before, this car is unbeaten in 3 outings. They won the Winter Nationals, they won the Arizona Nationals, they won the Super Nationals in Houston. They've got the competition scared to death. Bob Glidden knows it for himself and the rest of pro stock drag racing. He's got to put away that Dodge.
Well, his performance today indicates to me that he is very capable of doing just that, Steve.
All right, the nose up, wheels in there on Darrell Alderman's car. Where's Glidden? Alderman can't see him. That's because he's not there. Darrell Alderman, 7:28 to Glidden, 7:29. Glidden had a lousy reaction time, which made the margin of victory for Alderman even more than the numbers might indicate. Darrell Alderman goes to the final round for the 4th race in a row. And back in the Mark Oswald pits, Big Daddy, this still looks like, well, maybe the impossible dream. Look at the holes.
Well, they've got a skylight there that's got to be completely taken out, or they're not going to be able to race. NHRA will not let them run this car if they don't deem it safe.
And there'd be no way they could even attempt this with their own crew. They have got friends from every crew in drag racing. Anybody who was already eliminated. Drag racers love a thrash. You know that. This is amusement for them, not work.
That's right. Or else they wouldn't be doing it.
All right, somebody will get the pleasure of racing Darrell Alderman in the final round. Will it be this man, Warren Johnson, in the Oldsmobile? Or will it be the yellow car in the opposite lane, Jerry Ekman, the Pontiac from Northern California? The fans on top of the tower, amazed as I am, how the RPMs come up to 8,000. They sidestep the clutch. You wonder how the drivetrain can take the shock of the modern-day pro stock launch. They're up. Good start. It is Johnson out-muscling Ekman in the middle and at the far end, 7:26. Oh boy, talk about muscle. 190 miles per hour in a pro stock car. Ekman departs the scene with a 7:34 at 187. So there you see it. Olds versus Dodge Daytona in the final of pro stock. Warren Johnson and Darrell Alderman.
Meanwhile, the thrash continues in the In-N-Out Burger pit. They're cutting the piece out of Hoover's body. This is the piece that they're going to put in to take that skylight out. These guys are serious. But a tremendous amount of work to be done here before they're ready.
One of NHRA's earliest slogans was ingenuity in action. We're seeing plenty of it. Back in Gainesville, Florida, back again in the Mark Oswald pit. Now his crew, Bill Schultz, Mark himself, Degamp, they're concentrating on the engine. All of their friends you see in the background say, let us take care of the body. All right, we'll handle the healing there. You go make some horsepower to try to beat John Force in the final. We still don't know if they're going to make it, but it won't be for a lack of numbers or trying.
Shades of Gainesville 86. Remember when the belts kept coming off the wheels and destroying my fiberglass front end? Well, the friends were coming over and doing all the repair work while we repaired the engine. It was a big help, let me tell you.
By contrast, here in John Force's pits, well, things are quite boring, actually. They're just going about their normal maintenance. They don't have nearly the problems that Mark Oswald does. All right, it is time for the final four in Top Fuel. We have got Don Prudhomme versus Gary Ormsby. Should be a wild affair. Ormsby number 2 in the world last year. Prudhomme certainly on the rise in Top Fuel. One runner-up finish to his credit already this season.
And you know how these guys feel. Each crew thinks that their very next run, they're going to have the problem solved and they'll be in the 4s.
Oh, absolutely. Don Prudhomme was in the 5-0s in the first round. Ormsby can't get out of the teens so far. Prudhomme in the near lane. Ormsby over on the far side. The Castrol GTX Top Fuel dragster. Prudhomme pre-staged. Ormsby pre-staged. Neither driver is moving, Don.
They don't want to do anything. It's a staging duel.
Both drivers want to stage last. There's a lot of shoes that think that's an advantage. And look, neither front end is moving.
Oh, my goodness.
And the heat continues to build in these motors.
This could mean wheel spin.
You can hurt. Oh, Buster Couch at start. He says, come on, guys, we don't have all day. Now he's going to let them sit there for a while. All right. They're away. Ormsby with the advantage. Prudhomme with the horsepower. Don Prudhomme goes to the final round at 5:04 and 273. Ormsby trails at 5:17, 279, even though he had a 400th advantage right off the starting line. In this sport, that's a long, long ways. All right, the starter being attached to the front of the motor on Joe Amato's car. They squirt a little gasoline into the injector to give it up prime. Now those two huge pumps on the front of the engine take over. How much nitro gone through one of these cars these days?
13, 14 gallons in a run, counting all the burnout and starting procedures.
At about 25 bucks a gallon. This is not an economy run. Kenny Bernstein, the Budweiser King. Dale Armstrong, likewise firing up his engine. Usually the Coochies will talk and say, now I'll fire first because I'm going to do a shorter burnout or whatever the arrangement is.
They have a real good rapport. Neither one wants to play any games. If a guy wants extra heat, he'll ask to fire first. Sometimes you see a guy wait a long time. They mean the heat is up and they don't need the extra time. Steve?
Don, it appeared we had two very stubborn race car drivers on the starting line.
I guess so, but, you know, that's the name of the game. They do it to me sometimes. I do it to them. We weren't trying to use each other up. You know, Gary Ormsby's a real fair racer, and I think I am too. It's just that, you know, he likes to go in first. I like to go in last, so you just kind of play that game a little bit.
You had to drive around him with a 504.
I guess so, yeah. You know, the car's been running pretty decent here, but we knew he'd be tough. You know, he's really strong.
Let's see who indeed will race the snake in the final.
Will it be this car, Joe Amato, who has been brilliant today with his performance?
And for Joe, Jerry Amato, Tim Richards, this has been the brightest day of their 1991 season. The first day, everything has gone right. Well, for Kenny Bernstein, it's been quite the opposite. Virtually everything has gone right. He has won the last two NHRA championship events in a row and leads the points.
And his reaction time has been phenomenal. Joe has got to have that on his mind. In fact, that's the thing they've been working on his car, Steve. Reaction time, both the car and the driver. They know that they're going to have to improve that if they're going to beat Bernstein.
Well, they came in here with a fuel system very similar to Bernstein's. Dale Armstrong knows that they have got that part as well, and that may be some of the combination towards those very quick reaction times. Let's watch Bernstein near lane, Amato in the far lane.
Looks like they're taking a little time.
It's Amato away first. Amato welds Kenny Bernstein to the starting line. A 4.05 light. 4.0 is perfect. He was 5,000ths of a second away from the light. 5.01 for Amato, 5.06 for Bernstein. So the final will be Joe Amato against Don Prudhomme. Amato with the lane choice.
But it will be a real good race because both cars are running just about even. The engine is just now starting to go back together in the Mark Oswald pit. They're running a little late because they got a late start. They didn't know whether they're going to repair this car or not, and they've got a long ways to go. Meanwhile, Steve is with Joe Amato.
You haven't raced Prudhomme that much, but you saw against Ormsby, he didn't want to stage.
No, them guys had a little shootout at the OK Corral there. Ormsby always wants to stage second, you know, and Ormsby, you know, but I don't really care. I just go up there and do my own deal and run my own lane and don't get involved in none of that.
Okay. We'll see when the time comes.
That's really the best philosophy because there's no rule that says one driver has to stage ahead of the other.
You're looking at the Oldsmobile Pro Stock engine in Warren Johnson's car back at his trailer. There's just moments to go before the final against Darrell Alderman. Where is Warren Johnson? Well, he's just to the front of the car, willing it to win.
Drag racers love a thrash, and there is a beauty going on in Mark Oswald's pits. His friends, guys from other crews, would not let him give up after that tire exploded. They're going to try to fix this body. And it's not just body work. Also, welding has to be accomplished underneath the car to what they call the tree. Small diameter tubes that give the body its integrity. But the real story and the real work, well, that's over where that tire blew. Now, what is making this possible is the body off of Tom Hoover's car. Remember, it blew away? They've cut pieces out of it, formed it onto the Oswald car, where they had gaps. They've used, well, aluminum sheet. They've used duct tape. They can't use resin. It wouldn't set up in time. Pop rivets and quarter-inch bolts. Can they make it? I think so.
Well, it looks like the guys have signed their Picasso there.
That's right. Nick Bonenfant from the Rebecca's Winning Car wrote, "From the guys," with a magic marker. Well, I'll tell you, here's a guy that has been unbeatable in the Pro Stock ranks. We've said it before. We'll say it again. He's won all 3 races held this year in his Dodge Daytona. There's Darrell Alderman. Warren Johnson, however, in the Oldsmobile in the near lane last year, Don, should have won a lot more races than he did. He's got the power.
Well, the way I see this thing, Warren Johnson usually has the performance advantage and loses, and Darrell Alderman doesn't have the advantage and wins. It seems like he always is able to muster a little something extra out of that Dodge at the last moment. And poor old Warren Johnson, something always happens to him.
Well, Johnson has been running a second car with Scott Jeffrey on, and that has been kind of a mule car. They could go out and try things on it. If it worked, then transfer them to Warren's car. And so far, I think that's been a big help. And one of the reasons why that blue and white Oldsmobile in the near lane is in this final round. All right, just moments away. Who do you pick, Big Daddy?
Well, you know, I'll tell you, Warren Johnson has got the performance advantage. And I got another thing. Alderman has won too much. That makes it a little bit against him in odds.
All right, here they go. Alderman away first. You're riding with a whole shot. Johnson has won it from behind in what may be the closest side-by-side race in the history of drag racing. Johnson 7:27, Alderman 7:31, but Alderman a 4.2 like Johnson a 4.5. Do the math, less than a thousandth of a second separated these two cars.
An unbelievable race. Darrell Alderman takes a very decided whole shot, starting line, whatever you want to call it, advantage. But he cannot hold off Johnson's mid-range charge, where he makes up that difference and actually holds on to just the ever so slightest margin of victory. And there you have it. Johnson, the winner.
The margin of victory was so small, yet this man, you knew you won, Warren.
Yeah, I saw the light just as across the line.
You're looking at the wind light at almost 200 miles an hour?
Well, you know, you got a little time in there.
You have stopped the streak of the Dodge, and you're going to get a lot of pats on the back from the Gliddens of the world, too.
I think this is all for the rest of the races. Everybody was red lighting, I mean, doing everything that could possibly go wrong for them, and I think this is for the rest of the race, because we knew we could do it, and I think the other racers are now going to finally say that, hey, he puts his pants on the same way as we do, too.
You were very conservative off the starting line. You gave him 3 and powered by it.
We didn't want to take any chance on red light. We've been having good lights all day today, and I figured let's not get greedy here.
Congratulations.
Thank you, Steve. Thank you very much.
I'll tell you, if I'd have been Warren Johnson, I wouldn't have been any more conservative on that light. 1/1000th of a second separated those cars.
I still can't believe he was looking at the wind light at 189 miles an hour. But I guess you're comfortable in those machines. You can do about anything you want. Well, they may have beat him today, but they got a long ways to catch up as far as the points are concerned. Darrell Alderman will continue to lead the Winston Pro Stock points. There's Jerry Amato, and she knows that with a win here, her team could go a long way towards catching Kenny Bernstein in the Winston Top Fuel points.
Amato needs to make a move here. That points chase is getting away from him, and what happens is you get so far behind, you can't make up those rounds.
That's right. They always say it's a long season, but when the season's over, you look back at the second race where you made a mistake and it cost you the title. Don the Snake Prudhomme needs to run quicker. Amato has been in the fours in qualifying. Snake has not. He's not had a 4-second run here in Gainesville. He needs to make that happen right now to ensure himself of beating the Pennsylvania driver.
And Amato is just known for pulling the best run of the meet out of the bag on the final. I've seen him do it time and time again, and let me tell you, the Snake knows that.
Oh, absolutely. No question about it. They're staged and ready. Prudhomme loses traction. Amato. Oh, Big Daddy, you're a prophet. 4.89 seconds. That is not only the quickest run of this entire event. That is a brand new NHRA national record and worth 200 bonus Winston points.
Well, Prudhomme was going to make a race out of it. He had just a slightly better reaction time on the starting line, but Amato's car began to move immediately as the Prudhomme car went up in smoke, and Amato just charged on to that brilliant 489, taking away the national record from Darrell Gwynn. Let's watch the entire run again from the onboard camera. Take a ride on Amato's car.
After the first 3 races not doing well, this really pumps you up, doesn't it?
Well, I'm pumped up, except I'm trying to stay calm so I don't get too excited, keep my neck calm. But it looks like Team Valvoline's back. You know, Tim Richards and all the guys hung tough through, you know, 70 hours of driving and 50 hours of driving, and it's a storybook finish, really.
Gotcha.
I'm getting emotional here, but, you know, for Keystone Automotive and Key Parts and all the people from Valvoline, you know, and, you know, it's been a good year, and we're really, last year was so exciting. It's hard to come back off that, you know, but we want to just make a run at the championship and give everybody a run for the money and have some exciting drag racing. I guess 489, that's as exciting as it's going to get.
Congratulations from all of us again.
Thank you very much.
Well, they worked hard. They made a lot of changes on the car, and it paid off. Kenny Bernstein still leads in the points, but not by very much. It looks like Joe Amato could make a run on him. Also, Don Perdome is within striking distance. Back in the Oswald pits, it looks like the skylight has been taken out of that body. They're going to reinstall it on the chassis. John Force is going to have a competitor in the funny car final.
The Amato crew still celebrating at the far end of Gainesville Raceway. But there's one matchup left to come, and that is the funny car final here at the NHRA Motorcraft Gatornationals. I'm Steve Evans along with Don Garlitz, and that is the miracle car, Don.
I can't believe my own eyes that it's up on the starting line. We saw that gaping hole in the body. Everyone was agreeing it was not going to be repaired, but they have done it.
So Mark Oswald in the East Coast, in and out hamburger car, left side of your screen. John Force over in the far lane. The Castro GTX Oldsmobile Force has been in every final this year and has won 2 of them. This is the first final for Mark Oswald. They debuted this car here at the Gators.
I just hope that all that repair is not going to get Oswald's concentration.
Oh, and it is Force up in smoke. It is Oswald, a trail of sparks across the finish line, and he's won it with a terrific 5:37 at only 258 miles per hour. And there's the crew chief, Bill Schultz, taking congratulations from the Force crew. There's Austin Coyle. He doesn't look real happy, Don.
I wouldn't be happy either if I just lost a race. It looked to me like it was going to be a single just a little while earlier. We see the clutch come in just a little bit too hard on John Force's car. He overpowered that Gainesville racetrack. No one thought they were going to be able to do that. Meanwhile, Oswald continues to march. The car makes a very nice move, a 537 ET, very respectable for a car repaired like that. We see some sparks coming off the headers. That means nothing. It's just a header that they borrowed that they put on the car.
Some great driving all day long. You earned this one. Everybody earned this one. Huh?
Yeah, Bill and the whole team, Doug, Dee, everybody, Kenny. The guys just worked their heart out.
Gives you a lot of confidence. Maybe a title could be at the end of this year for this team.
Yeah, it's going to be tough. You know, John, he's no slack, and neither is anybody else out there. It's going to be a dogfight.
And they said the 2-car combination wouldn't work. It works just fine. Mark Oswald, the Gators funny car champ.
One of the great drag racing stories. We'll remember it for a long time.
You did. I said, everybody's against you this time.
Hoover gets half the point. Half the point.
Don't you wish, John Force? Force still has a considerable lead, however, over the rest of the top 5 in Winston Championship points. The 22nd annual Gatornationals has been brought to you by Bud Light. Everything else is just a light. By Goodies, the #1 selling headache powder in the South. And by Ford and your local Ford dealer. Have you driven a Ford lately? Coverage of the NHRA Gatornationals has been a presentation of Diamond P Sports in association with ESPN.